Hello, everyone. My name is Yasin, and in this short presentation and live demo, I will show you how the Atlassian server to cloud migration does really work. My name is Yasin Asyad, and I live and work in Germany. And I started my career as an embedded software engineer, then switched to software consultancy, like as an IT consultant, and 2016 discovered this great Atlassian world, and started doing like different projects at different companies, learning a lot of things as an administrator. And since a year, I got myself specialized in cloud migrations. And I support like major companies and big companies, working currently with an Atlassian partner here in Germany, Yudocus, to succeed the migration from server to the cloud in, let's say a regular time. And in this presentation, we'll go through like basic things. So we don't have like a lot of time to go through a lot of very hard technical details. And my goal here is to show you the flow of the migration, like how does it really work? What do you need? What are things that you need to know that are probably not documented publicly as well from Atlassian? And we'll go through basic like keywords such as strategies, methods, and the migration program from Atlassian. And then I'll just give you some quick best tips and tricks from my experience, from my project that I've realized, to help you probably, succeed your future migrations or your current migrations. And at the end, I will show you a live demo of a migration of a very, very small project. Actually, that project has only 3 tickets, but you will definitely see how that works and what you need to check on your server. So the first question is why we have to migrate. Actually, it's a question like have to migrate or like should we migrate or not. It's already decided from Atlassian. Customers who have server licenses, they have to take the decision until 2024 to migrate to data center or to the cloud. And as you know, probably most of you, since you're like a lot of you like consultants, you can no longer purchase server licenses. So it's really a very hard time for customers who have server. And starting from February 2022, so in a couple of months, customers who have, let's say, 1,000 user licenses, and they have more employees coming in and they need more licenses, they will not be able to extend that number of users, for example, up to 2,000. And they will have really to take the decision to go to data center or to the cloud. So a lot of reasons why you should migrate to the cloud. And another one actually is that Atlassian new customers, or 95% of them, they decide for the cloud. They don't decide for data center or for server. And 80% of the 500 Fortune companies worldwide, they already have licenses for the cloud at Atlassian. And actually, Atlassian publicly announces like that they have monthly around 10 million users using their cloud. It is secure, it has better features, it is being rapidly developed, and new features are coming more than server as well as in data center. As an example, the Jira, for example, the new project type for Jira Core, and a lot of other features actually. So the first keyword that I would like to share with you is migration program. So Atlassian puts a very major big program containing basically 3 keywords: resources, tools, and support, to help you and help customers migrate to the cloud. The first, about resources, it's a lot of documentation, which is publicly, which you can read, go through, and as well as live sessions and Q&A sessions with Atlassian Cloud migration engineers, as well as the Atlassian University certifications for the cloud, for Jira Service Management, which got recently publicly or published, as well as for managing Jira Cloud projects, as well as Jira cloud environments. So that's about resources. About tools, Atlassian offers free tools, such as the Jira Cloud Migration Assistant or the Confluence Cloud Migration Assistant, as well as, which will come in the near future, the Bitbucket Cloud Migration Assistant. So these tools you can install, and they help you first to analyze your environment, analyze your users, analyze the number of issues you have, the projects, the amount of data you have, and as well help you to migrate to the cloud. We will talk about that in details in the next slides. And the free app assessment solution. So, if you have a lot of apps, you have to go through all of them, decide if they are used or not, if they have alternatives in the cloud or not, if you have a compatible version for the cloud environments or not. And instead of doing that with Excel, Atlassian offers that included in their cloud migration assistance, which can help you realize the first steps to analyze your apps. As well as the most important part, which I really like, the free cloud migration trials. So independently, if you have active license or not, I mean a valid license, maintenance license or not, you can get up to 2 months free cloud trials with the same amount of users that you have on server. Supposing you have 1,000 user server license and you'd like to migrate to the cloud, you can get from Atlassian 1,000 user cloud environment to test your migration. This free trial period, it can get up to 12 months for standard companies, and for enterprise companies, it can get up to 2 years. So that is one thing which can help you at least test the migration without really paying double for your server license as well as for the cloud. And the third keyword is support. So the migration is really a complex subject, and in the cloud, as an administrator, you don't have access to everything. So Atlassian offers cloud migration managers, cloud migration engineers support, and other engineers which can help you evaluate the security and other regulations. And concerning about cloud migration managers, they can help you plan your project. They can help you communicate with the internal Atlassian teams to clarify some details which are important for you. And the cloud migration engineers with whom I work daily in my migrations, they are highly technical skilled people who have full control of the cloud environments, and they can help you read the log files there because we don't have access to that, and they can help you to quickly solve problems and technical problems. So there is a program, it's full of resources, tools, and support, as well as free licenses. Now the question is, how can we communicate that and decide that internally at a company? And the question is always, should we start fresh? We check our server environments. How many projects do we have? How many workflows? How many fields? And then we decide to just start fresh. That means we create everything from the scratch in the cloud. Maybe this does not really fit for major companies. And I wrote there, it really fits for small servers. Like if you have one project with a couple of tickets. And the next strategy is lift and shift. That means you don't have time to analyze your server a lot and clean up custom fields, apps, and so on and so on. You just want to take everything as it is. And basically you can run that, for instance, with, for example, site export, import, and we'll go through that in the next slide. But the strategy of lift and shift, you have no time to clean up. You want to take everything with you. Of course, the side effect there, or the negative side of that, is that you will take garbage data which you have, including attachments, probably projects that are no longer being used, and so on and so on. The third strategy, optimize and shift. Of course, it is comparable to lift and shift. So basically use the same tools and almost the same complexity, but you need more time because you would like, of course, to analyze your server in very details and decide what things you would like to take and what things you'd like to keep behind. Or maybe what are the configurations that you'd like to delete. And some companies, they cannot start fresh. They cannot do this lift and shift at once in 24 hours or on the weekend. And they cannot do optimize and shift. They are so complex. They have thousands of projects of users. We're talking about 20,000, 30,000 users, and then it gets really complicated. And for those customers, we have like a phased migration. That means you should analyze the environment, group the projects per, for example, department, unit, and so on, and migrate that step by step. So the first migration, you will migrate, for example, 10 projects, move that to the cloud, and then in the next couple of weeks, months, move other projects to the cloud. The negative side of phased, of course, it takes really a long time to move all the projects. And you probably will have to pay for both cloud and server for a long time. There are companies, they do this strategy for like 2 years and sometimes like 3 years migration. Now that we know how we're going to migrate, like we know which strategy we have, now the question, how are we going to realize that technically? And currently there are like 3 options. Publicly, definitely you can make your own 3rd or 4th option, but the first one would be site import. That means you export, for example, your Jira settings and you import that in the cloud. And it has, of course, a lot of advantages. And one of them is that you really take the same configuration to the cloud, the same projects, the same workflows, the statuses, the resolutions, everything, and the custom fields as well will keep the same ID. So you basically migrate the database to the cloud. It has one negative side, is that when you migrate that file in the cloud or you put it in the cloud, it will wipe and delete everything that you have in the cloud. For example, if you have a customer who has 1 project in the cloud, let's just say service desk or service management, you cannot really just site import because you will wipe that project with this migration. So for those customers who already are working in the cloud and would like to merge their server with the cloud, you can use the Cloud Migration Assistant for Jira and for Confluence. The Cloud Migration Assistant for Confluence, it works really perfectly. Like you just have to do some settings and analysis. And in most of the cases, it works fine. It takes everything, with a couple of things that you might have to take manually. But for Jira, it's still fresh and it does not really migrate everything. For example, it does not migrate Jira service management projects. It does not migrate advanced roadmap. It does not migrate boards which contain tickets from like cross-project boards. So it still has like negative sides, but for minor migrations and customers who are ready to accept these negative sides and migrate easily without wiping their cloud target site, it fits perfectly. And of course, the 3rd option, which works for Jira, but not for Confluence, CSV. So supposing you have a customer and they have a project with 1,000 tickets, 3 custom fields, you don't really have to do the complete like analysis with site import and JCMA. You can do like CSV. Of course, we're talking about if you cannot use site import or JCMA and Confluence, Cloud Migration Assistant. So in CSV, there are as well negative things that you cannot, for example, migrate version data like version release date. You cannot migrate sprint data. So basically, migration methods, you have 3 ones with advantages, disadvantages, and you have to like discuss with the customer, with the stakeholders every time what is the best method that fits for all of them. I will show you in the best tips and tricks what are the methods that I use the most and for which product. If I start, I said I will not like go through a lot of technical details, which you might be expecting. I will just show you like the first recommendation is please consider the migration as a major project. So from when I talk with my customers, I always tell them, please consider the migration as a major project. You need budget, you need people, you need communication, you need project management, you need documentation, don't ignore that part, and definitely you need a lot of tests. Because Jira is complex, so you have the complete projects, the permissions, the custom fields, the screens and the workflows, the complete like validators, conditions, post functions, and it's complex and things that you cannot just test manually or automatically. So you really need to make a strategy how we're going to test that. And the best thing is to create user acceptance tests. Ask the users that are using the project how they are using the system. Create a list of things that you should manually test after running each migration trial. So a lot of customers, when I talk to them, they say, yeah, migration to the cloud is just like a version upgrade for Jira. And they think that everything will like be migrated and fine, we're done in 3 days. And they get really frustrated, when they realize that that's not the case. And then they start from the beginning preparing budget and so on and so they get really a lot of frustrated. So make sure from the first talk with customers that this is not just a one click and everything goes to the cloud. It's a lot of work. Always migrate Jira before Confluence, of course, when that possible. There is like a bug if you migrate Confluence first with the Confluence Cloud Migration Assistant, and that's what most of the customers do like themselves because it's easy to migrate Confluence to the cloud than Jira, and then they go and look for a company to migrate Jira. Then we have the issue that we have to delete the complete environment and do the things like other way around. The problem there is a bug if you migrate Confluence users first and then Jira users, that Confluence users, when they log in, they see no data, like they lose permission to certain spaces. So if you want to migrate Jira and Confluence, start with Jira first, finish that, migrate the data of Jira and its apps, and then start Confluence. As well as in the real migration on that weekend, first migrate Jira and then Confluence. For Jira, if the customer does not have a cloud environment yet, so I would recommend to use site import. It really works perfectly. It works with internal user, external users, with apps, with different things. And of course, app data will not be migrated with site import. You'll have to do it separately, but most of the I would say main known apps, they have like scripts to migrate the data from server to cloud. For Confluence, my recommendation is to use Confluence Cloud Migration Assistant. It works perfectly. And my other recommendation always to create a move ticket. A move ticket is the first step that you should do. You inform Atlassian that, hey, we are migrating from the server to the cloud, because through that ticket, you get support. You get analysis of the log files when you have errors. And if you try to do it without Atlassian help, you will be solving problems that are not on your side, they're on the cloud side. With the move ticket, Atlassian can activate some flags, some like hidden feature, which can help you, for example, speed up the migration. So when you import, for example, site import to the cloud, it takes, let's say, 5 hours migration, including import of the data and then hard reindexing, like full reindex of the data in the cloud. And when Atlassian activates that, then you skip this full reindex and you run only like background reindex, which speed ups a lot the steps and the downtime. And another thing is to clean up your Active Directory configuration all the time. I know customers that they have really very messy, I would say, Active Directory configuration, that they synchronized all the users that they have, all the groups. We're talking about 10,000 groups in Jira. And first step, of course, it's included in the pre-migration checklist, but analyze and fix the Active Directory settings to avoid migrating users or groups that you don't need, because it will be hard to delete that in the cloud. And always create a test environment for the migration. Never run like a migration using your production environment. You will be changing settings. You will be installing extra apps to analyze. You will be changing some set environment parameters, and so on. So do that on a test environment. I know customers who say, we cannot create a test environment and please run that on the production migration. And the result is we cannot really do that because that's gonna create a lot of other problems than we're gonna solve. So if you have a lot of like messy users in the environment, like without emails, user with duplicate email, cleaning that up with the help of your system administrator might take like weeks. So if you would like to test the migration of the workflows and project, you can disable the users, from Active Directory on your test environment. Of course, run a reindex of the system and then fix your internal users, because there you can quickly change the email address and missing information, and then run an import or a site import without users. All the tickets will be assigned to like an unknown user in the cloud, but at least you still can test the workflows and other settings. Check public access. So a lot of customers on the server, they create filters, they create projects, and so on, and they share that with everyone on the web. And those configurations will have to be restricted first, because if you migrate with that setup to the cloud, with site import or with JCMA, that data will be publicly visible in the cloud to everyone on the internet. Even, on the web, that means everyone who's not logged in as well. In the cloud, try it as well to take advantage of the sandbox, because it's easy to delete, to recreate. So if you'd like to test a lot of migration trials, use that on the sandbox. Of course, if you have premium plan, because for standard, that does not exist. And of course, most of the customers, I would say, they will have to use Atlassian Access, because there is no other feature actually to integrate your Azure Active Directory or any other user management platform with the Atlassian Cloud without really purchasing Atlassian Access. And here's some like minor tips about workflows. I do always analyze the workflows with a very, very nicely programmed app from Decades, Admin Toolbox for Jira. With that app, you can analyze your, let's say, 400 workflows, those validators, conditions, and post functions coming as well from third-party apps. So for example, you can quickly identify all your script runner scripts there, or JSU, validators and so on. With that app, you can quickly analyze your workflows, and you can target the testing in the cloud later on. For permissions, I always recommend to make sure you, as the user who's going to run the migration, to be able to see all the tickets. So if the customer has some regulations that admins cannot see the data, the production data, try to convince the customer, talk with the customer about that, because if the customer has like 10,000 tickets and you run a migration, but you can see only 20,000, it might be a little bit difficult to test things. So make sure you see everything. And about users, you can, for example, use my app, my user manager, or use SQL. To run SQL in Jira, you can use the Home Bros app from Votaz, which is really perfectly and nicely as well programmed, and it helps us as administrators to run SQL or to access the home directory of Jira very quickly. So talking about SQL, you can run a lot of checks with SQL to make sure that your data is consistent before migration. This is the last slide, and then I'll show you a demo with Jira Cloud Migration Assistant. Actually, my only recommendation here for third-party apps is to always contact the vendors. You pay that app, you bought it, you are using it. If that app is available in the cloud, contact the vendor, ask them about any migration paths available that you can take advantage of. Most of the vendors, they actually have their own scripts which can migrate your data from server to the cloud, or they might help you join the Atlassian early access program for using app migration or automatic app migration to the cloud with the Jira or Confluence Cloud Migration Assistant. So that will be the first thing I would recommend. The second thing, always ask the community. Just go to community@atlassian.com and ask the question how to migrate ScriptRunner, how to migrate Zephyr, or any other app. And definitely others will help you, will comment. And there are different ways how to migrate data. I mean, some, for example, I'll mention here the example of Simple Task. There was no script for this purpose. We contacted the vendor and they really helped us like on a daily basis and finalize a complete great solution to export the data in JSON and import that to the cloud. And without contacting the vendor, we would have never made it to migrate that app. So always contact the vendor, ask the community, and ask Atlassian through that move ticket, because Atlassian has an overview of all what's happening there and different scenarios. And when you contact them, they can advise you and probably give you a contact person which can help you with that. So live demo, I'll change my screen sharing here to my browser and show you how migration might look like. So this is a very, very small Jira environment. And it has a couple of projects. And one of the projects, let's say that we need to migrate today because it's very, very important, is the Jira Con 21 project. This project is very, very important. It has a lot of users, I guess only 6 so far. And it has a lot of tickets, so far only 3. And the goal now is to migrate this setup to the cloud. So how to do that? Our strategy here, we would not want to migrate everything to the cloud first. And second, I have already a cloud environment and I have some couple of projects there. Notice that the project that we would like to migrate is not existing there yet. So we cannot use site export import in any way. Demoing site import export takes really a lot of time. So in this case, it fits perfectly to use the Jira Cloud Migration Assistant. So as said, the first thing to make sure that you have access to everything in the system. And what I always do, like I just go to search issues. I see the result here that's being shown. And then 727 ticket. And then I go to system information and just check the database statistics under system info. And here I can directly compare if I have access to all the tickets, in this case, 727 ticket. And in most of the cases, I don't have like access to all the tickets. So I have to negotiate with my customer to get the access to everything. It's really very interesting as well to analyze database statistics and take a look at that. And that was the first point. The other point is about the apps that I use. So when I go to manage apps, I use this app, Home Directory Browser from Votaz. I really like it because most of the customers, they don't like grant us SSH access to the server due to security relevant agreements. And to be able to export the site import or the site backup, this app helps us like directly to do that. So I run site backup and I go to export and I find the data there and I can just download it. As well, I use the app for running SQL like requests to verify certain things. The app is really worth it. So instead of struggling a lot, sending emails, sending requests to the administrator, he's running it, giving you answers back. Instead of doing that, you can just use this app. And for analyzing workflows, which is really a very hard task without any automation there, you can write your own script. That will be one way. Or the other way would be to install the admin toolbox from Dickies. And this app analyzes all the workflow or the workflows, shows you here if there are scripts, any other third-party apps, post functions, validators, and so on. And you can quickly filter as well the active workflows and split everything here and then take that as a documentation. And after the migration, make sure that you change all these configurations manually, or at least check them. So to migrate to the cloud, you need the very, very important app from Atlassian, which is called Jira Cloud Migration Assistant. Notice that we are trying here to migrate Jira. For Confluence, it's basically the same. You install the Jira Cloud Migration Assistant. Make sure always that it's updated, because there's a check that you cannot run a migration with an outdated version here. So when the app is there, just go to System, and then migrate to the cloud. I guess I need more RAM for the server. Or I guess my server is down. Okay, let's go back to System. Now it's working. And then we go to migrate to cloud. So there's one step here that we can do with the customer. And the first step is go to this page and just analyze the different apps, say what apps do we need to migrate, what apps can we just leave behind, write some comments. Of course, the result can just be copied to Confluence or downloaded as CSV and saved somewhere. With this phase, you can as well in the next phase connect to the cloud and install all the needed apps. Today, we'll not be migrating or installing any apps. We will go to migrate or manage your migration, and we will create another plan. The next step would be to connect to the cloud. We will call this JiraCon migration. And if you don't have anything visible here, just select choose cloud site. You will have a list of all the available cloud sites where you are as an organization admin there. You can select the target site. In this case, I already did that step. Choose what to migrate. Here, we did not activate the app migration hidden feature. So we have only two parts. Which project do we want to migrate? In this case, we would like to migrate my JiraCon project. The app is really helpful. You see how big is the data and the estimation time of the migration, because during that time, the users cannot use the project or should not use the project. So you can communicate that downtime to your users. Add that to migration, and next step would be to migrate users. I always select, of course, all users, and I preserve group membership. That means if I have a user A in a group B, on the server, he will be migrated in the cloud as user A in that group B to have access to all the projects that I have. Add that to migration. The next step would be to check the errors. If you have users with invalid email address or with duplicate email address, you will have that here. And you can then talk with the customer or with the Active Directory administrator and try to clean those users up. You will always have like this warning about duplicate groups once you run one migration. But that's not really risky. That's not so bad because this group has been already created in the cloud on my first migration, for instance. And now we are just updating the group membership. So that is safe to see this warning here. And if the project was already migrated once, then you cannot re-migrate it again. Like you cannot push new data to the cloud. So when you migrate the project, make sure to close that project on the server, make it invisible or at least read only to make sure that no new data will be generated. And of course, if that project is public or has public access, like settings, then you will have the warning here. So let's review the migration and just run it. Here we can go to view details and see the steps. Basically what the app now will do step by step. It will go through the users that I've selected. It will go through the groups that are affected with this migration, and it will just migrate them. Notice here that it will run very fast because I already did that step. So there will be no creation in the cloud of new users. That runs very fast. And now the Cloud Migration Assistant will just go through the project and checks what are the configurations that can be migrated, and will then create the project in the cloud. Of course, migrate the workflow, the different settings, the custom fields. So the configuration first, and then migrate the data, so the tickets that we created, and of course, match the users to those tickets. And in the last step, it will migrate the attachments. So with the Cloud Migration Assistant, you get a lot of information already migrated to the cloud. Yeah, that has been done successfully. We can go to the cloud, or we can click here, then we'll go to the cloud. But what I can do as well, I just go to the cloud, refresh my page, and expect to see the project here. The icon has been migrated, the project lead, the same key, of course, of the project, and of course, my board with the tickets that I've created on the server. Well, I would say thank you a lot for listening, and this video will definitely be recorded, I think broadcasted or put online in the future. So if you have any questions, you can definitely contact me through email, yasin@flowzest.com, or just contact me on LinkedIn, Yasin Benasser, and we definitely can talk about any migration strategies or situations that you have, as well as any app migration paths that you are searching for. And I would say enjoy the event, and the next, I guess the next slots here, we have different presentations. You definitely can go to the plan and book your next session. Thank you a lot for listening, and enjoy your event.